this is the Gigabyte 2070 Super, and in my opinion this might just be the best card for HD gaming in 2024 going into 2025. And the reason that I say that is, well, there's a few reasons. Firstly, this specific shroud is really good. This is a 3-fan card, and this is the coolest running card that I have ever had. So Gigabyte did a really good job there. It's quite big, but it's not so big that it doesn't fit in smaller cases. It's big in a smart way because it's quite long, width wise, but it does pretty much perfectly fit into 2 slots. It's maybe a little bit big there, but I haven't had an issue in any of the cases I've tried. It does have a little bit of RGB illumination there with the Gigabyte logo, and you can choose the color on that, but I mean that doesn't really matter. And it takes a 6-pin and an 8-pin power, and I think this needs about like a 650 watt to run well. So in my opinion this is a fantastic card. Shroud wise, maybe the best I've had, even better than the ROG Strixes that I've had, or maybe on the same level more or less. And all in all, just a really good card. And in my opinion, for what this costs, it might be the best value HD gaming graphics card out there right now. Maybe there's a bit of competition in terms of some other NVIDIA cards and some AMD cards, but value wise for what I paid for this second hand, it's just fantastic. So this cost me 4,000 Rand, and that is right around $260–$70, something like that, which is not a small amount of money, but I do think that it is a good amount of money for what you get with this card. And I'm going to prove it. So I didn't say anything there. I was going to say I'm going to prove it. So yeah, I think it's a great card. Let's test it, and let me show you why. Let's do it.
Okay, we are testing Shadow of the Tomb Raider at HD on ultra graphics, everything turned to maximum, and so far it's doing quite well. So this is of course the 2070 Super 8GB, which is an RTX card, so you do have ray tracing capability. And yeah, I think this card will do well. Let me turn down the screen a little bit so we can see it a bit better. I think that's a little bit better. And yeah, I think this card will do well, especially at HD. I think maybe it's a little bit overkill for HD. Maybe if you just want to game at HD, something like a RX 6600 or even an RTX 3050, if you're just talking HD, or maybe a 3060 12 gig. Those are maybe better options for HD specifically. I think the 2070 might be a little bit overkill. But all in all, I think the system is well balanced, coming in at, the sort of frame rates that we are going to be looking for, because this is going to get close to high refresh rate frame rates. Now this is a cheap monitor, so this monitor is just for testing, but in general, if you have a nice monitor at HD, you want to get some high frame rates, and we didn't even have to turn down the graphics to do this. This is at maximum graphics, so I think all in all it's a really good test. As for the games we're going to be testing, these are some of the games that I used to test. These are the ones on my storage drive, so it's just easier for me to test these ones, and I think they are interesting to test. And of course, there's no point in testing something like Counter-Strike, because we know a PC like this is going to destroy that game, but that's just not the sort of results that we're after for this, because most PCs will. So I'd rather play games like these that are AAA but a little bit older or whatever. And also keep in mind, none of my tests use the upscaling or the sampling technology. Well, we do have anti-aliasing, but I mean none of the AI rendering techniques. This is all real-time rendering at the normal resolution with no help from AI, upscaling, or I forget the word, but you know what I mean. This is all just the old way of rendering. So I think it's better to test games that way because it's a more true reflection of the performance. Okay, really good results on this one. Let's move on to the next one. Let's do it. Okay, getting into the Doom gameplay benchmark here. It's not really a benchmark, it's just gameplay. But wow, right off the bat, I mean, this PC is a little bit overkill for Doom. This is a game that we could probably play at 4K and get above 100 FPS pretty easily. And it's a testament to how well this game was made, because it's still, you know, quite a good looking game, even though it is running the way it is. So yeah, you can see there in the top right the performance. We are getting around 250 most of the time, so really a good result. And if you know, this game isn't quite equivalent to an esport game, it's a little bit more difficult to run than an esport game, but it's not super far off that. And so this is the sort of performance that you can expect in games like Valorant, Counter-Strike. You know, you'll get more FPS than this, but I just mean, you know, it's a high level of performance. This game is sort of in between those kinds of games and games like your more hard to run AAA games like your Crysises, or your sort of Naughty Dog games like Uncharted or The Last of Us or whatever it might be. So it's a good test to sort of measure a midpoint for performance, if I can put it that way, because it's right down the middle of what those kind of results will be. And so I think it is a good test to do for that reason. My mouse is very slow, so it's a little bit difficult to play, but still a lot of fun, and it's really doing well. I mean, this PC is really for HD gaming overkill, but you don't need much more than this, to be honest, to have, you know, solid, smooth gameplay in really any game. It's unfortunate that I don't have games like The Last of Us, because it would be really interesting to test something like that. But I can only test what I have, unfortunately, and I think that all in all, this is a fantastic performance and a fantastic sort of result in a game like this, because I think it's a very balanced system. I know it's only a 6-core CPU, and maybe you should put an 8-core CPU with a graphics card like this, but it's a good 6-core CPU. It's better than the PS5 Pro CPU. So I think this is a fantastic test, and I mean, if you look at the visuals, it looks amazing and it's really running well. It hasn't dropped below 150, so yeah, high refresh rate gaming, looks amazing, and a really good result. So with that said, let's move on to the last test. Alright, getting into the Hitman benchmark, and this one I think is going to do well as well. This is running at HD ultra graphics, everything set to maximum. This test is getting a little bit old at this point, but it's one that I still like to do. I think it's still quite relevant, and the newer Hitmans are based on largely the same sort of architecture, so you know, the performance in the newer ones are going to be similar to this, maybe a little bit worse, but not much. It's not much more difficult to run the newer ones. This one is about 5 or 6 years old at this point, but I think it's still very relevant. And we are getting a really good benchmark performance. The FPS is averaging around 122, and the frame rate seems very smooth and very stable. The 6-core CPU is gonna do quite well in scenes like these. You know, it is only a 6-core, but these newer 6 cores perform much better than the older ones. You know, basically Ryzen Zen 1 versus Zen 3. The newer ones are going to do a lot better, and the technology has come a far way, and I think it looks really good. It runs really well, and obviously a very smooth, very performant sort of system. I think for a system like this, I would rather do 2K gaming. I would rather do QHD, and probably use it as a console equivalent, because this PC is a little bit overpowered for HD, to be honest. There are going to be games that will be more difficult to run than this, but for the most part, this will do quite well in any game that you throw at it. So let's move on to the next one. The 2070 Super for HD gaming in 2024 going into 2025. Is it a good choice? Well, what price can you get it for? Because it might be the best choice. It might be the only choice, depending on the price. I think something like a 2060, which is only a 6 gigabyte card, but something like a 2060 or a 6600 from AMD, or even a 3050. These cards are less expensive on the second-hand market, but you do miss out on a lot of performance. But if it were me building a PC just for myself, I would probably go for like a 6600 or a 2060, because you can achieve high FPS, high frame rate gaming at HD with a 2070 Super, but you're gonna get pretty close to 100 with a 2060 or with a 6600. So it depends on what you want to do, but it is a fantastic card. It has a fantastic value, and the Gigabyte one specifically is amazing. It runs really cool, and there isn't much to complain about. So, if this is the sort of card you are looking at, they are cheaper than, the 30 and 40 series in RTX. So it might be time to get one of those secondhand. But it really just depends on what it is that you want to do specifically. But I can definitely recommend it, and I think it's a fantastic card with fantastic performance. There's not too much to say about it more than that. I mean, it is what it is. It just depends on what price you can get it for, because if you can get it for $200 to $300, I would say, that seems like a good price for it. And if you want to build a PC for around $1,000, that's not a big percentage for the graphics card, and it's going to deliver good gameplay even at 2K, and in some games even at 4K. So definitely recommend it. I think it's a good card, and you can't go wrong with it. So that's going to be about it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.